Welcome back to another episode of Magic's in the Mess, the go-to podcast for ambitious women ready to stop pretending, start aligning, and finally build success your way. I'm your host, Danielle McKinley, speaker, business and wealth strategist, and your go-to problem-solving hype girl. Here, we'll help you unlock powerful mindset shifts, discover your magic, and bring your dream life into reality. Each week, I'll deliver raw stories, proven business strategies, and powerful transformations with industry leaders to activate the magic in you. So if you're ready to ditch the pressure, the performative BS, and the noise telling you who you should be, hit subscribe and let's make some magic. Welcome back to Magic's in the Mess. Today's conversation lives in a space between personal growth and real life, between doing the work and becoming someone new because of that work. I'm joined by Melanie Peralta, entrepreneur, creative, transformational coach, and someone who has spent years inside the personal development world, including serving as a head coach in programs connected to Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. But what I appreciate about Melanie isn't just the scale of the people she's impacted, it's the way she bridges leadership and humanity. Through coaching, creative expression, and community experiences, her work centers around helping people remember who they are underneath the expectations they've learned to perform. So today, we are talking about identity, self-trust, creative healing, and the courage it takes to evolve when the old version of you still feels so familiar. This conversation is about becoming, not perfectly, but honestly, and I am so excited to have her here. So help me welcome Melanie to the show. Hey, girl.
Thank you. Hi. That was such a great intro. Wow. Well
Well,
done.
it's for a great thing. I am so excited for what we are
Same.
going to capture today. When we were prepping for this and we had sort of our pre-interview get to know each other, you just have this energy and this glow and this light that we are all so blessed to experience. So I'm super excited for my community to get to experience you today. And let's just dive in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. So when people see you now, they see the coaching, the events, the healing work that you're doing. They might assume that you've always trusted yourself, right? Or that you've always been this confident version. But who were you before that work initially?
Ooh, I was a very wounded, wild, reckless, to a degree, I would even say moralless girl. Yeah. Yeah, I made a lot of bad decisions. I did not treat my body well. I was using substances and drinking a lot and partying so hard and cheating on all my boyfriends. I was not loyal at all. I was I wasn't I've always had a great heart, but I just for a good chunk of my life I just did not make good choices.
Okay. Let's talk about that because before you got into this space, you spent a great number of years in the music industry,
Yeah.
which I think runs in parallel with what you just described to us, right?
Yeah.
Of the things that you were doing. So unpack that a little bit because there's so much power in those lessons that
Yeah.
you learned there. Talk to us a little bit about your time in the music industry.
Well, I got into the music industry very young. I started writing songs and recording in professional music studios when I was like 13. Um, I I I was doing like YouTube covers back then, and a lot of people were knowing me because of that. I was doing songs with local artists, and I don't know if you remember like World Star Hip Hop. I don't know if you know about that. Yeah, the website World Star Hip Hop used to be huge. Like that's where all the new mixtapes were, and that's like before Instagram with all of the music industry and artist news. You went to World Star to figure out like what music was out there. And I did a song with somebody who it got like 8 million views on World Star. So I started making a name for myself out here, and I started making connections locally with just different studios out here. So long story short, I was in the studio one day and I was recording a song that I wrote, and an A&R from Atlantic Records came in and he was like, "Whoa, who is this? Who's your manager?" I didn't have a manager. My dad was my manager. So then eventually that guy became my manager, and pretty much for the rest of middle school and high school, I was in what was called like artist development. At the time they did artist development, we don't do artist development anymore because of social media. The music industry is just so different. But back then, the labels and investors would invest into artists, mold them, shape them, help them produce music, and then the goal would be to get a record deal. So I did
Mhm.
that all throughout middle school and high school. I flew back and forth from here to Atlanta for years in artist development, making music and things like that. And in a major way, I felt like I was living two lives
Mhm.
because I had this music reputation, this artist reputation that I was working to uphold, a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility. When I would be in Atlanta, I was just a little music industry baby. I didn't get to hang out and have fun and like be social. I didn't have any friends. I was just wake
Mhm.
up, go to the studio, go to sound writing session, go to performance, go to vocal lesson, go to dinner, go to sleep, do the same thing all
Oh,
over
that's
again.
awesome.
Photo shoots, meetings. It was just that was my life out there. So when I would come back, then I'm just a girl in high school again.
Mm. The
Yeah,
duality.
I'd come back and I'm just a girl in high school again, going to raves on the weekend, taking ecstasy with all her friends and just wilding out. So I really lived this double life for a while. Um and then eventually, like, that double life, it kinda it existed for a while because eventually stopped working with Atlantic. I wanted to move to LA, and in the midst of me trying to save up to eventually move to LA and be out there, I started managing an escort service when I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like
Okay. We have to pause there because we have to get into that. But before we do that, I had a little drop in about this duality and living these two separate lives and really figuring out like which one works. And I feel like in business too, it doesn't have to be like such a duality of like you're an artist and then you're a high school student like you experienced. I think sometimes in business we can have multiple lanes or multiple things in our business that can make us feel that same sense of like which one am I? Which one is in alignment? So when did you notice that? And if someone's listening to this and they're kind of feeling it, what would you say to them? Like they're feeling like they're living a bit in duality.
Which when you said, you realize when it's in alignment or when it's out of alignment?
Yeah, so you when did you realize, "Oh my gosh, I'm living 2 separate lives, and this isn't actually working for me?"
I knew for a long time.
Mm,
I knew for a very long time. I feel like I lived double lives for a lot of my life, even before the music industry, because I was raised by my dad, single father, but
mhm,
then so I had one life with my dad, single child. My dad took very good care of me, all of that. But then I would go back to my hometown with my mom and my mom's side of the family where I was the oldest of 6 kids. So it was a very
mm.
different life. And my mom was a drug addict. There was just I always lived 2 lives. So
So do you feel like it was because somebody who's listening to this might be nodding their head going, "Okay, yep, I know I'm living 2 lives, but I'm stuck and I don't know how to choose which one," or if perhaps maybe neither of them are for me. What would you say to somebody that's in that space?
the double life situation, there's one of them that is for me, one of them is rooted in survival. And
Mhm,
it's, like, more like coping mechanism, like, that life of yours is feeding your shadow or feeding your survival side, or it's just feeding a lower, vibration, a lower expression. You might not be, over here pimping women like I was, but
yeah.
your expression of it might look different, but there's a lower vibration expression of it and a higher vibration expression of it. There's one that produces shame and guilt and one that produces more fulfillment and things like that. So it's more so with those two comparisons, you know which one is the higher frequency. You know which one is the more fulfilling and the more pure and the more truest to you and the more authentic and the higher quality, healthier version. But for some reason, you're still attached to the lower
Mm.
vibrational expression for whatever reason why you are. For
Yeah.
me, I was totally okay with living out of integrity at the time.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so something that I teach is about the secret ingredients to success is really simple. Simple, not easy. You have to decide that what you want is for you. You have to believe that it's possible for you even before you have the proof of it, or when people question it, or perhaps your behavior in this sense isn't in alignment with what you're deciding is for you. And you have to take daily consistent action. So I feel like what you're saying is like, you already have the answer, but you have to decide that you want to make the shift and then apply the other two ingredients of success to get out of it.
Yes, and that's exactly what happened to me. That's exactly
Ugh,
what I did.
oh my gosh.
Because
Okay, so let's go there, but I want to first, like, we have to unpack because I know somebody listening was like, "Wait, you used to run an escort service?" Like, we gotta understand this. How did you get there? And then
yeah,
more importantly, how did you get out of it?
yeah, so, um, eventually, the man who became my manager in the music industry, I eventually fired him, and I was like,
Mhm.
"I don't need them anymore. I'm gonna go to LA and do my own thing." I was still signed as a songwriter, so I was able to go and still do things without him. So, but I was like, "I need to make some money. I need to make money," and I was working in retail when I got back home from living in Atlanta. My very first job when I was like 15 was in retail, so that was my experience at the time. And I was working for a store called Arden B. Do you remember Arden B?
I remember R&B.
I was
We're like
working
we're millennial babies, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So Arden B was like the big sister, same company, but the big sister version of Wet Seal.
Yep.
Yeah. So crazy times.
Like Nordstrom Rack for somebody who's listening to this that might not know what seal either.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I was an assistant manager there at the time, and I was saving up money to move to LA,
Yeah.
and they shut all the locations down, and then I didn't have a job. So in the midst of that, I go and I get my hair done from a family friend, and they were like, yeah, so and so is looking for an assistant. So and so is looking for someone to manage her books and her appointments and things like that. And it was
Mm.
somebody that was like within our social circle that we knew, our like family friend type thing. And I didn't know that she was an escort, but the person telling me thought I knew that. So we're in the hair salon, she's doing my hair, and so she's not diving into that, but she's like, "Yeah, she's looking for help. So she'll pay you cash this much every day." And I
Mm.
was like, "Oh, I was 19 at the time." I'm like, "That's a lot of money for
Yeah.
a day in cash. Bet. Tell her I'll take it." So then we leave and she's like, "I didn't want to say it in there, but you know what she does, right?" And I was like, and she's like, "She's an escort." And then I did remember. I was like, "Oh yeah, actually I forgot. I did know that about her."
Yeah.
And again, at the time, I I wasn't tuned into my moral clock like that.
Mm.
I just wasn't. I didn't operate with a ton of integrity. I was just like, well, if she needs help and it's going to be that much money, if she needs me to manage her, she needs me to manage her bookings and her clients and stuff like that. Sure, I'll do it. I had a boyfriend at the time, my son's dad. So I was like, well, let me talk to my boyfriend and see how he feels about it, and I'll let you know. So then he was like, well, if you're not doing it, as long as you're not selling yourself, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. So I said, okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do. I told everybody, my family, that I got a job as a receptionist at a spa. And and I started managing her, and I started, like doing her clients and stuff, and it started very like casual, just her and I, and she's teaching me how to answer the phone and how to book these things cuz obviously it's all very illegal. And she had like
Yeah.
there was a front place that we operated out of, and uh, next thing you know, there's more girls. Now that I'm able to manage her properly, then we add on more girls who need management. And next thing you know, I'm selling all these women.
How many did you get up to?
I think that was only like 5, maybe. But
Okay.
they would kinda rotate, so there'd be times when there was just 2, 3, I think, like, 5 was the most. It wasn't some crazy huge operation, but we definitely had a brick and mortar.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were operating out of a brick and mortar.
Okay, so you've lived this duality since birth, essentially, with your dad.
Mhm.
Then you're doing it in high school because you're in the music industry and you're doing this. Then you're like trying to pursue this creative career and you're like, I need freaking money. So you run an escort service.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide this life isn't for me anymore? I want to upgrade my moral compass and I want to make a change.
So, I eventually did move to LA.
Mm,
I eventually did move to LA, and while I was there, I was like, "Well, I'm in LA. People there's a lot of money here." I'm like, "I don't have to sleep with anybody. I can just go to dinners with people." So, like, I still
mm,
wanna be making the type of money that I was making at home. I don't wanna sell my body, but I can sell my time. And so I
sure.
considered to just be like a little sugar baby type of situation. So I went online. And so when you're in that industry, even though you're not doing it, you're seeing how much money they're making. And then so you're
Mhm.
like, you're always kind of pulled into thinking, maybe, it's
Sure.
you just get sucked in. So then I made a profile to find guys or whatever. I was still dating my son's dad at the time. So I was not being
Mm,
loyal. He didn't know that I was doing this. He came to visit me out in LA, and this is just divine timing and divine intervention because I made the
sure.
profile. I had just barely made it, hadn't connected with anybody, nothing. And he came to visit. I remember I got in the shower and my laptop was out. While I was in the shower, I got an email notification from the website and he saw
Mm.
it. And when I got out the shower, he was like, "What the hell is this?" He's
Oh
like, "What are
no.
you doing?" And then he looked at me and he goes, "Who are you?" And that
Oh,
question, Danielle, it pierced my entire soul. And I thought to myself, yeah, who am I? What am I doing? This is not
yeah.
me. This isn't how my dad raised me. Like what the fuck?
Mhm.
So then after that, it was funny. I during that transition period, I was being unfaithful to my boyfriend and I went on
Mm,
a date with a pro baseball player. And
okay.
on the date, I could tell now in hindsight, I could tell that he was a very wise, mature, successful, conscious man. And he
Mm,
liked me for my beauty and my personality and my radiance. But then on our date, he was like, she is so unhealed and unconscious.
uh-huh.
So at the end of the date, he goes, I think you should read this book. I think it would be really beneficial for you. And
What book was it?
The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra.
Oh.
I had never read a spiritual book, nothing. I never even
Mhm.
dove into consciousness, spirituality, personal development, none of that. It wasn't even in my sphere. And
Sure.
so I was like, sure. I didn't even read books at the time. So when he told me that, I wrote it in my notes in my phone. I was like, yeah, sure, okay. Never, I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm never going to read that. But I still had it in my phone. So when I was going through this identity crisis, questioning everything, I was like, what's that book that guy told me to read? And I grabbed my phone and it was still in my notes and I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm just gonna read this because I don't know what I'm doing in my life right now.
Yeah.
And I read the book and it was my first taste into spirituality, consciousness, personal development, and I was obsessed. I just became
Oh.
hooked. I was immersed in it. I was just like a mad woman. I did not leave my studio apartment in Hollywood for like almost a month unless I had to go to the grocery store because I was just
Wow.
reading books, watching YouTube videos, studying quantum physics, spirituality, the seven
Yeah.
biggest religions of the world, food, healing, organic. Like I was just learning all of these things and I could not stop. I literally became a whole different person in a very short amount of time. And
Mm.
the rest is history after that, really.
Okay, so what I find so fascinating about this story is there's all these connection points in our life, right? So the date, the guy recognized this in you, but initially you brush it off. That was like the knock the nudge and the rhino. So this woman Carly, she's your psychic coach. Shout out to her on Instagram. This is like her expression, and I just love it. That we get these little knocks from the universe, and we usually ignore them because they're like the whispers, okay? And then we get the nudge, which is like a shove, and you feel that one in your soul. And then if you don't listen to that, then you get the rhino, like your boyfriend
Yeah.
finding the laptop, right?
Yeah.
And being forcing you to like not, it's like a protection measure, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to kind of move into now is where that unlocked that one book, that one moment, this date with this ball player unlocked this whole new realm for you that really opened you up to your purpose and
Yeah.
kind of the where you're walking in life now. So I want to start to pivot into you become obsessed with this personal development. And then what changed for you in your life and how quickly did things shift gears from this like, hey, I'm walking on this side of something that I'm not proud of, that's sort of this, I don't know, like morally incorrect way to be living, right? And now I just am shifting. Tell us a little bit about the transition.
Oh, it happened so fast. My entire life changed within a year. First of
Hold
all,
on. Hold on. Listen to what she said. Her entire life changed in 1 year. So if
mhm.
you are listening to this and you are resonating with the things that Melanie is sharing with us, and you're feeling like you're not walking in purpose, you just get to decide. 1 year. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so as I was learning more about consciousness and uh sound frequency, like I dove into everything. Then I started learning about subconscious programming, and I was diving into
Mhm.
myself and why am I like this and why do I do things that I know I shouldn't be doing, but I'm okay with doing them. And I was just learning all these things about myself. And when I got into a lot of subconscious mind programming and I learned about the influence of music, I had no desire to be in the music industry anymore because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm contributing to mass manipulation. At that time, everything that the labels were requesting were party, drink, turn up, get faded, get sexy,
Uh-huh.
be promiscuous. Like that's what the labels were wanting. And when I
Uh-huh.
started going through my spiritual awakening and my healing, I started writing healing songs,
Oh.
empowering songs. And I remember I went to the studio one day and I delivered those songs. And I remember my producer, he looked at me, he's like, something's going on with you. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, these are really dope. These are great, but this isn't what the label wants.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at him and telling him, I am so done making what the label wants. And
Good.
I just stopped going to the studio after that. I entirely stopped going to the studio after that. And I just went and like found a different job in the industry, in the music industry, or technically just the entertainment industry. I went and got another job, and
Mhm.
I changed the way that I was eating. I started only shopping at
Hmm.
the Burbank Farmers Market and started changing my diet, and I started exercising, and I started prioritizing time out in nature. Like my whole lifestyle changed. Everything changed. When I would come home back to Arizona, everybody
Yeah.
was sick of me. They were like, "You went to LA and got all hippie out there." Like, back
You're like, what
then,
happened here?
LA had the reputation of people in California are hippies, and
Yeah.
the collective frequency of Cali at that time definitely got to me because I turned into one of them. And it wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't even influenced by anybody. I was very isolated and I was all alone out there. I didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
I knew a couple people, but I spent a lot of time alone other than when I was in the studio. So, changed everything about my lifestyle, the music that I listened to, everything that I consumed, all of that. My career shifted. And then my boyfriend moved out there with me. My son's dad moved out there with me. And very shortly after he came out there, I got pregnant. And so
Oh.
then I was like, whoa, now I'm going to be a mom. Now
Yeah.
I was so glad that I started to do my healing work before I got pregnant because my body
Yeah.
my body was speaking to me. One of the books that I read was called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mace. Have you heard of it?
Such a good book.
Such a good book. That book
Yeah.
changed my life because at the time, I was experiencing chronic UTIs for
Mm,
years, Danielle. It was a running joke in my family that I was like, she's only 19 and she's already got a bad bladder. Like she's just she was born with a bad bladder. It was like a thing. My body
yeah.
had become so immune to amoxicillin because I was
Mhm.
constantly taking antibiotics for this damn UTIs I would get. And when I read that book, it was like infidelity, all of
Yeah.
these things, like literally everything that I was like, I'm doing this to myself. That's when I came
Mm,
across, and mind you, this is in like 2012,
yeah.
2012, 2013, like around that
Way
time.
before mainstream, this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
Way before mainstream. And so that's when I discovered Dr. Joe Dispenza back then
Mhm.
and Bruce Lipton and their work.
Yep.
And so that's when I learned, okay, well, if you can make your body sick, then you can make your body well. And
Yep.
from Anatomy of the Spirit, you have to change the core of your character. You have to change who you are. You have to change how you live, which changes the emotional vibration that you're existing in that ultimately is wreaking havoc on your organs. So I
Mhm.
was like, I am ruining my own flesh body. I
Yep.
must get right. And when
So
I learned I
would
learned
you
that
say
before
that
I
was,
got
like, the
pregnant.
instant? Like, that was, like would you say that was the catalyst? Like, what was the catalyst that you were like, "I'm shifting and I'm never going back?"
That was definitely the catalyst for my healing for sure. Because this sounds terrible, but I was so more okay with doing bad things if I felt like it was only harming other people. But back then, I
Mm,
didn't know. I was so unconscious. I didn't know that the emotional state that I'm in because of the choices that I'm making, aka shame, guilt, secrecy, I didn't know that those things affected me more than they affect the person that I'm doing the thing to. I didn't know that back then. I didn't know that
mhm.
emotions can affect your body. I thought emotions were these just a visual, invisible things that you feel. I didn't know
Yeah.
anything about the emotional body connection. That information wasn't out there like it is today. And
Sure.
so when I learned, oh, I'm not just doing this to them, I'm doing it to me, to my body. I'm making myself sick. I'm creating my own suffering in this way. Then I looked at it totally different. And I was like, okay, I am going to be a loyal woman of integrity. I'm going to have morals. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be trustworthy. I'm no longer going to live in shame and guilt and secrecy. Like,
Mhm.
that is it. I am
Sure.
out. Yeah, I'm done with this. And that was before I got pregnant. So I was really doing a lot of my healing then. A lot of my childhood trauma stuff was coming up for me. So I did a lot of work, a lot of Joe Dispenza, learning about how to reprogram the subconscious, my beliefs, all of that. And then when I got pregnant, I was like, first of all, I was so excited.
Yeah.
It was not one of those like, "Oh shit, what am I gonna do?" Because me and my boyfriend, we had gotten to a really good healthy place by that time, which is why he moved out to LA. And
Yeah.
so we were thrilled. We were so excited. I felt healthy, vibrant, conscious, so like
Mhm.
in living in strong integrity and so full just so such a strong sense of self-awareness at that time. I was thrilled to be a parent, and my dad was devastated. My dad was my biggest
More
fan.
duality.
Yeah, more duality. My dad was my biggest fan when it came to music. And so
Yeah.
he knew that me getting pregnant would probably be the end of my music career. And it was not for the reasons why he had anticipated it to be, but because
Sure.
having my son gave me a greater calling. When I was going through my personal development transformation journey, I had zero desire or zero intention to ever teach anybody. I had no urge to tell people what I know or hey, I was just applying it to my own self. I was just
Sure.
living it and that was all I cared for. But when I had my son, it awakened me to just the responsibility that we have as as mothers who are bringing life into the world, I come from generations and generations of dysfunctional, broken women. My mother being
Mhm.
one of them, her mother being one of them, her mother being one of them. Like, that is what I come from. And I was like, I am not going to be that.
Yeah, you're gonna
And
break the cycle.
yes, I'm going to break the cycle. And not only am I going to break the cycle, but I'm going to help other women break the cycle too. Because I see how broken people keep producing more broken people. And if
Yep.
we really want to shift the world and if we want to live happy, healthy, high quality lives, then we need to heal the people who make all the people. So,
Amen, sis. Okay,
yeah.
this is so good, and this is exactly why I knew you'd be perfect for this community,
Mhm.
because here we peel back the curtain. We know that people doing big things experience messy things too.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times, the mess and the hard things that we go to equipped us to be able to help those that are either walking that path, trying to get out of that path. So let's talk a little bit about, I believe that the reason you are so good at the work you do now is because of those experiences. Although they were hard, although they were things that you're like, I don't ever want to be that again, but they allow you to really deeply understand someone who's walking in that space to help pull them out of it. And then you're teaching through lived experience. So let's move into a little bit about how you got into the personal development world and began your work there. Share some of
Yeah.
that with us.
Yeah, so when I was in that space and I was like, I need to teach women what I know. We need to heal humanity. Like, my son just awakened this thing in me. A lot of people, and I really want to say this because motherhood has been the most enriching experience of my life. It has been the most expansive experience of my life. And I know a lot of women out there, they have that fear that once they have children, they will lose
Yeah.
themselves in motherhood. And that doesn't have to be your experience. That doesn't have to be your story at all. If anything, me becoming a mother made me realize even more of who I am and what I'm capable of and what I
Mhm.
had to offer the world. And I never lost my identity in motherhood. If anything, my soul's purpose was ignited through motherhood for sure. So just
Mm,
putting that
so
out
good.
there for all of the
So
mamas that,
good.
for all the potential mamas out there, like, it's up to you, boo. So,
And the mamas that maybe you're struggling
or
because
they
you
might
are
be in it
going
right now.
through,
Yeah.
yeah, like you just had the baby or you're still trying to find your way. That's okay too, but it really can unlock so much for you. So
Yeah.
amen to that, sis.
Yeah. So pretty much I was like stay-at-home mom at the time. All I had was like some savings from the music industry in my bank account, but I was using that to help, with groceries and like insurance and things like that. So I really didn't have any money like that
Yeah.
I could just frivolously use. But I had this conviction in my spirit, I'm going to throw a women's event. I want to create a space where I can teach women about this stuff that I know, but my partner was like, "Who's gonna pay for that? Because 'Cause I'm not." And I'm like, "I'm gonna figure it out." So, I
Yeah.
created a GoFundMe, and I was like, "This is who I am, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it," and I made, like, $500 in my GoFundMe. And funny because now that I know what I know about throwing events, I was such a rookie back then. For my first event, I got a venue that was $1,000. I should
Mm.
Dude, you can get a venue these days for a few hours that costs like $100 an hour. And back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I went and got like this wedding venue. And, um, so during the holidays, my family got together because I was always talking about it. My event, my event, my event that I'm doing. And they got together
Mhm.
and they all put money to make up the rest of it. So I locked down my
Oh.
venue. I was on food stamps at the time. I got food stamps and I got used my food stamps and I paid for all the food. I reached out to like my friend who's a DJ, the people, some connections that I knew, saw some women empowerment clothing brands on Instagram, reached out to them, and I just created this event and I called it
Mhm.
the women's brunch. And this was in 2016, before our generation's feminine empowerment movement really started. So at the time,
Yeah.
there wasn't really anything like it, especially here. And so I did it. I pulled it off. I figured it out. I didn't make any money off of it at all because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to those starting events. The first one's probably not gonna make any money,
Oh, it
and
didn't
it's
make
more
money
about, like,
until
the
like
back end and the
the
ripple
third
effect.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I threw my first event. We had 32 women show up. And I was like, cool, this was awesome. I'll do another one next year. Mind you, this is like before social media wasn't a marketing platform yet. We were still uploading pictures of our food to our pages back then. And so I was like, yeah, I'll post this on my social media, whatever. A whole year later, no marketing strategy, nothing. In my mind, I wasn't thinking this is going to be a business. I wasn't a business person at the
Sure.
time. I was a creative, always just been a creative. Even when I was in the industry, my management dealt with money and business. I never had to do that. So I got in and I'm like, well, I'll do one of these next year. I create a flyer. I start posting it maybe like a few weeks before my event. I knew nothing about marketing, whatever. Second year, we triple our guest count. And I was like, whoa,
Something's
holy,
here. Yeah.
oh, I was like, oh, this is something. Like, whoa, okay, we have something. I have something. I don't know what this is, but we have a community here and I'm gonna foster it. So I was like, okay,
Sure.
great. I'm gonna start hosting free workshops every single month to keep these women together. And I did. I did free workshops every single month. I would do them at a park. I would do them at a library. I would do them at someone's random space that they would offer up, a yoga studio, whatever. I would do these free monthly workshops all the way until the next year came for the annual women's brunch. By the end, by the third year, fourth year, we had hundreds of women coming to these
Oh,
events. Hundreds of women coming to these events. So many women that are really big pillars in our community now would come to that event back then. It was so
yeah.
beautiful. And eventually 2020 came along, which would have been the 5th annual, and that was gone. That was obliterated once the pandemic hit. But ironically enough, through those years of me committing to my annual event, me committing to those workshops, which by the way, I had a handful of times throughout the years of me doing those free workshops where nobody would show up
Mm.
for free. Nobody would show up.
Okay, so we gotta pause here because I think that that's the other power. So that's sort of like the messy middle of this new start to this new path, right? And sometimes we get discouraged when the numbers aren't there, when the people aren't showing up. But if you really feel called to do something and it's truly on your heart, you got to keep going.
Oh yeah, I didn't care if nobody came
Yeah.
because during that time, the thing that really drove me the most, Danielle, is that it wasn't about me. I wasn't
Hmm.
making any money from this. Is to me, I was so committed to my mission of helping women heal and evolve that
Yeah.
I didn't care if nobody came. I was still going to do another one the next month and the next
Sure.
month and the next month. It wasn't about me at all. And so, because of that, I built a lot of relationships. I created, a reputation in the community. I started building a name for myself. I eventually evolved into feeling confident enough to call myself a coach because I was like, I'm not a coach, I'm just an event host. For years,
Sure.
I couldn't claim the coach title, but then I was like, actually, I am a coach. I coach all these women. So then eventually I was speaking on other people's platforms. I was speaking and singing at Powerhouse. I was speaking on other people's podcasts and, things like that. So then I just kept growing and evolving and speaking at people's masterminds. And then the reputation grew, the brand grew. A lot of it was boots on the ground, though. It was
No shortcuts.
yeah, no shortcuts. Like
Hmm.
I would for my annual event, late eventually, I would go to the farmers market and I would hand out flyers for my
Yeah.
event. Yeah, because I'm like, my ideal client is at the farmers market. The girls who want to eat clean and organic and healthy. Because the women's
Yeah.
brunch, the meal was always a high quality, healthy, organic meal as well. It was like a whole thing that we did. So um, eventually, through all of that, staying consistent, staying diligent, eventually I did separate from my son's dad and I became a single mom, which was
Mhm.
never a part of my life's plan. I never saw that for myself, Danielle. I never in a million
Mm,
years imagined that I would be a single mom. That just was not a
mm,
part of my program or plan. I was like, I'm not going to be a single mother. And I
yeah.
became one in the midst of me doing all of those. So, I got a job as a server because I needed flexibility with my schedule. I was a
Mhm.
relentless breastfeeding mother, and you are not going to get me to stop breastfeeding my child. So I needed
Yeah.
flexibility with my schedule. I needed good money fast. And so I was a server at a sushi restaurant in Old Town.
Which one?
It was
Was it
Geisha A
Stingray?
Go-Go.
Geisha? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
worked at
Stingray or Geisha? One of the
Dude,
2.
it was geisha, and if you know anything about Geisha Go-Go in Old Town Scottsdale, which is not even there anymore, it used to
Yeah,
be the spot for Sunday fun day, sake bombs, everyone's getting drunk, and it was an insane environment to work in. It really was. It was
yeah.
very chaotic. It was very out of alignment for me, honestly.
Yeah, almost like a dip back to the old you in the music industry.
You know what though? It was this is the divinity of life, right? I
Mhm.
actually I needed that job so bad because what had happened to me was that I became so conscious. And so I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but when you're at the beginning of your consciousness, spiritual evolution, I call it Buddha lady syndrome, where you're like too namaste, you're too
Yeah.
soft, you're too that you lose your edge and you lose
Mhm.
yeah, you lose. For me, I lost my edge. I remember I didn't even want to cuss. And I would like, I thought that I was being peaceful by avoiding conflict, especially when it came to my co parent and stuff. But I didn't realize my idea of operating as a high vibrational being was so disempowering because I wasn't honoring my all the full spectrum of my human emotions, and I was shoving so many things down, and I lost my edge and I lost my fire, and I was deep in my Buddha lady syndrome. That
Okay,
job
so that's because someone listening to this is like, "Oh, shoot, that's me right now." Right? And I will the number one thing I love to do is have a listener walk away and be able to apply something they learned today.
Yeah,
So somebody who's, like, nodding their head with you and they're like, "Ooh, that's me," or they're resonating, or maybe they're not quite aware that that's where they're at, and it's sort of it's knocking or nudging them to see it.
yeah.
Give us a tactical step that can help, balance it out.
Well, I actually another thing that shifted this, I read another book. I read
Mhm.
I read the book The Woman Who Runs with Wolves.
Mm,
Yeah, and I identified with the wolf. I
yeah,
identified as the person. I had to remember who I had been in the past. And sometimes we don't want to revisit those areas because they might be shameful, but I used to be the
mhm, yeah.
girl who used to manage the escort service. I was a gangsta for real. Like for real. And and that even though I was utilizing that in a dishonorable way, that being a gangsta in my toolbox is actually a valuable thing when it's
Yep,
used intentionally and intelligently. So I reminded myself, I'm like, oh, yeah, I actually can be quick with my words. I actually can enforce my boundaries. I actually can stand up to myself. And this is all the social proof in my history of when I did that. So
yeah,
sometimes you do have to look at the social proof of your life to see like I and a lot of people do that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, when I was in high school, I used to be so brave and so fun and now I'm not." Well, that if that was in you then, it's still in you now. It's
mm,
just dormant right now. So it's
sure,
really about recognizing the things that are within you that you have just neglected or you haven't put into practice or you haven't exercised. It's like the dancer
mhm,
who stopped dancing. You didn't lose knowing how to dance. You just haven't moved in a while. So,
sure,
yeah, so me being in that place where there was a lot of drama and there was a lot of conflict, it made me have to deal with those things and I had to get my edge back. And so
Sure.
I was
Okay.
actually really that was actually a divine puzzle piece for me at that time because
Mhm.
it brought me back to balance within my own personality. Um but then eventually I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, "All right, I got what I needed from this place." 'Cause
Yeah.
I was a hustler, man. I would do fundraisers at that place. I was doing, events to, like, make money. I did, like, showcases there. I would bring artists and musicians, and I would sing and stuff to raise money for my annual women's brunch at
Yeah.
Geisha. But I
Yeah.
couldn't do it anymore. It was just such a low vibrational environment that eventually I went and got a job at True Food Kitchen because I was like, all
Mhm.
right, I got what I needed from here. I still need flexibility and good money fast. I still need to be a server for a little bit, but I need to do it in a more aligned environment. I want to be proud of the food that
Sure.
I'm serving people. I want to be in an environment where there are more conscious customers. I'm going to go get a job at True Food Kitchen, which was my favorite restaurant at the time. And I sure did.
Yeah.
And I went and I got a job there, and that's when a lot of things changed for me. It was when I was a server at that job when I got the call that I was referred to be a coach for Tony Robbins and Dean.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that because you worked inside a very high level personal development environment when you
Yeah.
started working with them. So, talk to us a little bit about what that experience taught you, how it allowed you to apply your skills, and the difference between like learning about growth and embodying it. Because a lot of us are consuming podcasts and we're reading books and we're saying things like, gosh, I'm doing the work, I'm doing all of the things that everybody is saying to do, but I don't feel that shift. And a lot of times that comes down to not embodying it. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your work there and specifically speak to that piece because that's usually like the unlock for people that I see is when they figure out how to embody the learnings.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I always call my time at Mastermind, especially in the beginning, I always call it my coach's college. 'Cause I never went to
Mm.
college, cause I went to the music
Yeah.
industry. I never got any certifications to be a coach. I always tell people I was certified by life. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Lived experience.
Uh-huh. So, if it was like coach's college for me, but the to go to your question as far as, the actual embodiment of it, the thing about being in that space is that we were in the arena. It was an
Mhm.
environment where you would learn a teaching 10 minutes before you had to go in front of thousands of people and teach it. So,
Mm.
a lot of people are spending
Well,
way
hold on, because some people might not understand the virtual environment because you worked with them to give some context, right when, like, there was an end to in-person events, and they completely shifted the company in 2020 to do virtual events.
yeah.
So give a little bit of context of what you mean, like, right before you walk in to teach this.
Yeah, so when I first got there, this was before the pandemic hit. Everything that we
Mhm.
were doing, the curriculums that we had were all for in-person events. That was
Yeah,
Tony's thing back then. Then COVID happened and
yeah.
all of our plans went into the trash can and everything that we
Mhm.
were doing needed to change. And now we were shifting to the virtual world. We were even just figuring out virtual world back then. So actually, fun fact, Tony Robbins is the reason why Zoom even increased their capacity for how many
Mhm.
viewers can be on there because they specifically did that for him and Dean, but we were just trying to figure out how to even facilitate virtual and make it cool and fun and engaging because it was a new concept for all of us. But
Yeah.
with that, we had to shift the curriculum because
Mhm.
a lot of the in person stuff, people were going to be getting in groups and they were going to be doing these exercises with each other. And none of that can happen when we're virtual. So
Yeah.
the timeline is they already sold this program. There's already a start date. We had to create the program week by week. It was
Mm.
like, so it was like, we have to facilitate this day. earlier in the day, we learn what we're teaching because we're creating it as we go. And then, right, as soon we have an hour to learn it, and then 10 minutes later, we have to go into our groups and we have to teach it. So it was from being in the classroom immediately to the arena. A lot of people, the reason why you're not able to fully embody what you're doing is because you're trying to embody what you're doing while you're still sitting in the classroom.
So good.
You're not actually going out into the arena. You're like, oh,
Hmm.
I've been listening to all these podcasts and reading these books, and like I should be this person by now. But lived action, that's the thing that shapes character. That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing the thing, wisdom is living it.
Hmm.
So a lot of people, they're not getting into the arena. Some people are, but these things take time. I think that's another thing too. I think there's a lot of unrealistic expectations of how quickly you're supposed to become the thing. Because
Yeah.
you see everybody else, you don't know that it took me 12 years to be this version of myself. You're trying to achieve what I did in a decade in 1 year. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's possible, but we have to be very honest and realistic about what the true human experience of growth and expansion is. Because one thing that I tell my clients all the time is, they're like, well, I feel like, I'm not creating enough things in my business or my offer. I feel like I'm not growing. And then I'm like, girl, you just got married. You just bought a house. You just moved to another state. That's
Hmm.
growth and expansion. You have to stop forgetting that you're a human in totality with this entire existence. Like, married, new home, moved to a new city that's like a dream city. That's success, boo. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, the
It's
a lot.
almost like they gotta pause to go, hey, it's not just about like sometimes we have this expectation that we're only growing if we're doing it in these buckets,
Right,
these specific categories, right?
right.
Like who decided what those categories are? So it's zoom out and really ask yourself, not only that, like, how am I defining my growth? But also get really honest with yourself. Like, are you just reading and consuming and going to the masterminds and attending the things? But then are you still living in that like freeze zone of not wanting to take the action? Because the action is where we change the neuroplasticity. That's
Yep,
where we change and build the confidence and we build the past to look back on and go, okay, that's proof that I can do it again. And if I did it
yep,
before, I can do it now. Would you
yeah.
agree?
Oh, 1000%. Yes. I agree
Okay.
fully, fully.
So let's talk about this because it's something that I hear women struggle with often. I'll hear them say things like, I struggle with self trust more than like motivation. Like people can get really motivated and energized and they're rah rah, but then they start to question themselves. So, why do you think that is? Why do you think that there's a difference between self trust and motivation
Um, why do I think that there's a
and
difference?
harder? Almost like self trust is harder for people than motivation.
Self-trust is harder for people than motivation because language is very important. Language is very, very important. Words initiate such different sensations within each other.
Hmm.
Motivation doesn't feel as personal. Trust feels so much more deeply personal than motivation. And
Yeah.
and so sometimes, like, the the trust element, that's way deeper inside of you. That's like, the fear to be seen, the fear to fail, and then what that means if you do, and what that says about you in the eyes of whoever you care about, whoever matters. And motivation is just like, that's just like the concept of rah rah, you know
Yeah.
trust is a totally different thing. That's like that, there's anchor in that, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Mhm.
So, I feel like soul signature ties into this. So, what do you mean by soul signature? And how does someone know kind of when they're living in that or they're living outside of it?
So your soul signature is it's essentially your energetic identity. It
Hmm.
is the energetic imprint that you leave on people and the world around you as they are experiencing you, as you are floating out there in your human existence. Everybody has a soul signature, just not everybody is conscious and intentional about what that is. Everybody leaves
Hmm.
an energetic imprint everywhere you go. I go to Sprouts to go get my groceries, and there's this one cashier that has the most sensational soul signature. Like, oh my God,
Oh,
I intentionally will wait in line and not go to self checkout just to experience her energy sometimes because she is so bright and radiant and positive and lovely. And her soul signature
oh,
sticks with me every time I go through checkout and she's there. And
yeah.
then on the flip side, there's another cash register person who their soul signature is very unpleasant and very cold and not warm and welcoming and is like ready to get off of work. So there's these elements of who we are. I call them the elements of your essence. There's these elements of
Mhm.
who you are that you're constantly expressing in some way, shape, or form. And these elements of your essence are really, really deeply rooted. They're very anchored into the totality of your life, really, because we develop these aspects of ourselves from our life experience, from who raised
Yeah.
us, what we went through as a kid, if we went to ballet school or if we, lived in Mexico or whatever it is. So there's these things that we carry about us. And
Mhm.
everybody's is different. So that's the signature part because mine is different than yours and yours is different than somebody else's. And the beautiful thing about identifying your soul signature is that you get to fully own the unique elements of your essence that are innate within your being, and you get to
Mhm.
utilize them very intentionally to maneuver through your world to serve yourself and the people that get to experience you.
So good. So tell us a little bit about how you help people discover their soul signature.
Yeah. So I'm actually right before this, I was coaching a soul signature group of nurses actually because their soul
Oh,
signatures left with people all day, every day, right? And
yeah.
so ultimately, it's like I said, it's identity work. So
Mhm.
initially, there's three elements of the Soul Signature Society program that I have. It's essence extraction, energetic management and sustainability, and then what I call the legacy effect. So ultimately, in the
Oh.
beginning phase, it's we do something that's called life sourcing, and we look at all these key components of our lives that shaped who and how we are today. Maybe this person is the reason why you have your humor. Maybe this person is the reason why you're passionate about nursing. Maybe this person or this experience or this is the reason why you have all this swag, or like, it could be anything. So we really, really we do a deep dive into their life to establish and identify the elements of their essence. And so once
Okay.
you can identify that, then you can also identify what fuels that and what ignites that, and then what drains that and what depletes that, what pulls you out of your essence. So then there's that self-awareness of this is when I'm in my light, and this is when I'm in my shadow, and these are the things that
Mhm.
get me here, and these are the things that get me here. And then with that you can go into your energetic management, where you're like, if I want to consistently be leaving my highest quality soul signature with the people that I'm meant to reach, then I need to maintain my energy wisely so that I can maintain this state of being, because life is life, right? We're humans. We
Life's
go
gonna be lifing.
Yes, we go through things, but if I have an internal system, an internal strategy that I can be very conscious with to maintain my state of being to the best of my ability, especially in this space, then I
Mhm.
can consistently fuel and feed that to be able to operate at my highest as much as I can, especially when I need to. Then after that, with that, then you are impacting these people in a certain way. It's like, I know that this is my gift. I know my nature is to nurture. So because I'm so aware of my gifts and I know when my gifts are operating at 10, I am now going to go into this room with this client and I know that this person needs nurture, or I know that this person needs a communication in a certain type of way. And I'm going to be able to go into these places and share my soul signature so intentionally because not only am I in tune with it, but I'm in tune with how it can serve you.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And that, my friends, is how she helps you build self-trust.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Mm, so if you are struggling with that, understanding your soul's essence is gonna help you build the self-trust because you'll be able
Absolutely.
to more wisely take action with that deeper knowing.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about, what alignment feels like in your body compared to your earlier time in life, because I feel like that's part of it. Is sometimes people struggle to know, like, is this alignment, is this not alignment, is this just anxiety and I'm actually in alignment, right? So I feel like if you can speak to, this understanding of your soul's essence and building the self-trust and making the shifts and the changes, somebody who is feeling like they're unsure, how you would speak to, like, what it feels like in your body now versus, say, when you were in the music industry or running the escort service.
Okay, so um the biggest thing is conscience. So Carolyn
Mhm.
Mace talks about conscience all the time. Your everyday emotional sensation it may not always be a reflection of where your conscience is currently residing. Let me give you an example of
Mhm.
what that looks like. You may be living
Sure.
fully in integrity and you may be doing what you need to be doing, and you're proud of the way that you're showing up and stuff like that, but you've got some stuff going on in human life that has you feeling anxious. Just because you're feeling anxious doesn't mean you're out of alignment. It means that you're a human
Mhm.
having a human experience that's creating an emotion that humans feel. So, the most important thing is to tune in and tap into your conscience to see like
Mhm.
where you're at within your soul and do a soul check in, because that's going to be way different than um the sensations that you're feeling outside from, the external world. So you have to be able to detach the two, because people have
Sure.
this idea that the feeling in alignment means that I'm always stable. Means that
Mhm.
I'm always grounded and I'm always in my center.
That would mean that balance isn't bullshit, and we all know that balance is bullshit. So that can't be
Yes.
true, my friends.
Yes, yes. So let me give you an example of this.
Mhm.
I had so much anxiety yesterday. I've had anxiety for like the past 3 days, Danielle. And here's why.
Mm.
Yes, yes. And the reason why, my son was suspended from school.
Oh,
Yes, and it could have got to the point where he might have been expelled for some
oh
silly
boy.
truth or dare game at school. Silly little boy stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my god, is my son." I'm like, "Okay, hold on." In my soul, in my conscience, I know that the way that we live, the way that I'm raising my son, I am fully in alignment as a mother, as a parent. I know that this is not a reflection of who he is. So I'm just tapping into like my conscience. I know I'm not like, oh, well, I've really been a shitty mom lately and I've been cussing my kid out and I've been neglecting him, or like, none of those things are present or
Sure.
true. So I'm looking at the reality. My conscience is very clear. So then when it comes to the situation, the anxiety is coming from the possibility of the outcome and what that might mean. Because yeah, I'm fully in alignment as a mother, but I'm still experiencing anxiety because what if he does have to go to a new school? Then that's going to be a pain in the butt. And
Yep.
that's those things existing at the same time is totally okay.
Yeah.
You experiencing the anxiety doesn't mean that you're not in alignment.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot of times the anxiety is because our brain is programmed to go to worst case scenario. So immediately it's starting to like solve and keep you safe. Like, how is that going to affect the morning routine? What's going to happen to him? He's not going to have any friends. How is he going to think about it? And we just start to spiral. But that
totally.
doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of alignment. Cause like you said, you're still a great mom.
Yeah, and
So
sometimes we make these feelings, we make them mean too much.
yeah.
We demonize the feeling, like, "Oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way." When I'm feeling anxious, I just let it rock and ride because I know it's gonna be over soon. I don't
Mhm.
attach all this meaning to it like, "Oh, I'm so wise and conscious. I shouldn't be letting this make me feel anxious." I don't attach any meaning to it that makes it even more dense because then when you do that, then there's guilt, then there's shame, then there's, "Oh, I must not be evolved enough and I must not be wise enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't be feeling this." But it's like the
Yeah.
reality is, my son is the most important thing in the world to me. Of course, there's going to be some sort of emotional reaction here, and that's
Sure.
okay. I'm not making the feeling wrong. I'm just being with it and acknowledging it and allowing it to pass. And that's the greatest
Flow.
thing that we can really do in those moments because we're not adding a meaning to it that actually doesn't mean what we think it means or what we make it mean usually.
Well, and for women, when we're connected to our feminine energy flows. So we feel it and we let it pass. I
Mhm.
love that you said you don't attach meaning to it. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you're not feeling the thing, doesn't mean that it's not real. It doesn't mean that the emotion's not there or the anxiety or the stress, but you're not attaching meaning to it so that you can let it move through you and it doesn't have to become something that's permanent. I think
Right.
that's so good. So for somebody who might be struggling with that right now, they're going through a hard time. Maybe shit's going down with their kids too at school. Maybe it's, they're fighting with their partner or they're struggling with a business partner or they have a tough conversation that they just keep avoiding. What's one thing that they could do right now to start to let it move through them?
One thing that they can do to let it move is the first thing is just releasing resistance. Releasing resistance because
Mm,
we want to get out of the feeling so bad. And the whole saying of what you resist persists. So it's like
mhm.
you fighting it is actually only magnifying it. So first release resistance and just be in your anger or be in your frustration or be in your sadness. Get out of the energy of I don't want to be in this anymore. Just okay, I'm mad right now. I'm pissed. This is
Yeah.
why I'm upset. This is the experience that I went through. This is very valid, you know? This is okay. This is a natural response to what I just went through. Now, now that I have given myself full permission to feel, to be a human, now let me go through the process of really seeing how this emotion serves my situation. Chances are it doesn't serve your situation. So the first thing is just allowing yourself to feel it, giving yourself permission. It's okay to be mad. Yes.
Yeah.
Now that I'm like allowed to be mad and it's fine like that, then that's when we could go into okay, but does this serve my situation? Me,
Oh,
I couldn't stay in anxiety for too long, because
sure.
like I'm able to experience it. I'm able to feel with it and be with it. But eventually I got to get out of it because the reality is the situation itself was out of my hands. So the next thing is also looking at the reality of your situation. Looking at the truth of it because we tend to make up a lot of stories. And you might be in conflict with
Right.
somebody and you might be forgetting that that person's actually your teammate and not your enemy. You might, you might,
Understood.
yeah, you might be forgetting the truth of the situation. And when I looked at the truth of my situation, and I had this moment in my kitchen yesterday actually, and I thought to myself, the truth of my situation is that no matter what happens, even if he is expelled and he does have to go to a different school, I'm gonna be okay and he's gonna be okay, and we're just gonna go to another school. And
Yeah.
I'm capable of
That's
dealing
worst case scenario, and it's
and I
not so bad.
yeah, and I'm capable of dealing with the reality of this situation. And so that's when you've gotta get tuned in to the reality of the situation, and then just really kinda looking at like, "Alright, if this thing does happen, then what? Oh, well, then he'll have to go to a different school." Okay. Well, then if he has to go to a different school, then that's what we gotta do. And that's that's okay. It's not
I think that
ideal.
my favorite thing that you said that I was like, "Ooh, that's a golden nugget that clocks," is what you resist persists. So I
Mhm.
think if you're listening to this right now and you were like, "Yes, that's me. Oh my gosh, tell me what to do. I'm feeling stuck." Really ask yourself, what are you resisting?
Yeah.
And the sooner that you address it, either with the logical like unpacking of, okay, what's the worst case scenario? The reality is I could handle that. That'll help give you some release and release some of that pressure. And if you're not sure like where the feeling is happening, really ask yourself, what am I currently resisting in my life?
Yeah.
What tough conversation? What thing am I putting off? What am I procrastinating? What am I not doing because I want to get healthier? How, like, what is it? And that'll help give you the answer of how to unlock the next best step, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I could talk to you forever and ever and ever, but we don't have all day, right?
Yeah.
So you've given us so much gold, and your story is just so unique and
Mm,
special.
thank
And
you.
you are so well equipped to serve people that are walking the journey into personal development, that are looking to figure out their soul signature. And so we need to know where to find you.
So you guys can find me, well, one, my podcast, if you guys just want free game and fun times. I have a
And
podcast
cute
called
swag. And cute
and great
swag.
swag. Oh my god, hold on. I have to show you the back of the
If
sweater.
you're listening so if you're listening and not watching this on YouTube, oh my god, I need swag. Send me the link. Add to
I will.
cart.
I
It's
will.
so cute. So
Thank
if you are listening to this, we'll put it in the show notes so that you can have link to her swag because it says humanhood. It's so cute.
Thank you. So, the Humanhood Series podcast is on YouTube and Spotify. We're also on Instagram and Facebook as well. Other than that, my personal Instagram is at it's Melanie Peralta underscore, or you can also go to melanieperalta.com. So melanieperalta.com, humanhoodseries.com. Those are kind of like the main places where you can find me right now. The ways that you can actually experience my creations is from watching the podcast or coming and coaching in Soul Signature Society, which that will be opening back up for enrollment very soon. And then I do host an annual women's retreat every year. So my big annual women's brunch that I was facilitating every year, it
Yeah.
ended up turning into a women's retreat that I now facilitate every year. This year will be year 6 of me doing that. It's called Womanhood Wellness Weekend, and it is 3 days of sisterhood, healing, fun playtime, deep inner work, and just a lot of memorable moments. We have women who have come for 5 years in a row. They keep coming back to
Mm.
this experience. Yeah. It's very special. It's one of the most potent, powerful, and special creations I've ever made, other than
Oh,
my
I
son.
love it so much. We will put all of that stuff in the show notes. So if you are on your walk, you're cooking dinner for the kids, you're getting ready, what you're driving, don't worry, check out the show notes. Everything will be there. Go follow her on Instagram, show her some love for pouring into us. And something that I like to do, Melanie, on the show is I like to celebrate a magic moment. So I feel
Hmm.
like as entrepreneurs, as women, we just don't slow down and celebrate ourselves enough. And I like to pick like the small wins because typically the small wins are the ones we brush over. So, what is a magic moment you've experienced in the last 7 days that we can help celebrate with you?
Mm. Small moment within the last 7 days. Um, Me really, really prioritizing myself. I'm a very catering woman, a very catering mother, and it's like, sure, whatever you want. If you want to do this, let's do this. You do this. And I had a day where it was a lot. It was very overwhelming.
Yeah.
My son at the end of the day was like, Mom, let's come watch this movie. And usually, like, that's our nighttime routine. After we're done eating dinner, we'll watch a little bit of a movie together and stuff. And that day I told him, Sonny, I'm not watching a movie with you. Mommy's gonna go take a bath. And I went and I took a detox bath and I got my CBD joint because that's my favorite. And I smoked a little CBD joint in my bathtub with my candles and my Hertz frequencies. And I just prioritized some very much needed me time on like a Tuesday night. So to me, that was a win.
I feel like that's a huge win. So kudos to you. That was so good. This has just been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us
Thank
and
you for
really
having
taking us
me.
through, the behind the scenes into the work up to where you are now and the lessons that you learned. If this episode resonated with you, go give her some love, tell her what hit, send us some feedback. Words go a long, long way. Share it with somebody that could benefit from it too. And we just so appreciate you tuning in and for giving us your time and your energy today. Go have a magical week and we will see you next Tuesday. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.